we've had this reasoning for food. But let's think a bit about other reasons, forget that we're talking about physical work capacity. Think about other reasons why there might be a relationship between your income today and an income at some point in the future. Think of it the next generation, think of it next month, or anything like that. Can you think of other reasons why this kind of funnily shaped curve might appear? So food might be one. What would be other reasons why this funnily shaped curve might appear? So this is right, that there is probably a relationship between how long you can keep the kid in school. Say because if there are school fees, you might or might not be able to afford them, or there might also be an opportunity cost for the child to be in school, like the Paxoling son couldn't afford to be in school because he had to work. So that creates, I think it's not very controversial to say there might be a relationship between your income today and how long your kid will stay in school. And then there is probably a relationship between how long your kids can stay in school and their income, which will create a relationship between your income today and the income of the child. So that creates a relationship of a form or another. But what would be necessary for this relationship to have this S shape? So what you have explained, I think, and I think most people would agree, though we can ask around, but I think what you have explained clearly is that we might expect through education a relationship between income today and income of the children. Now, what else do you need for that relationship to have this funny shaped? Sadly, going to a PhD usually leads to a drop in income compared to having gone to a master's, especially if you choose the master's properly. But this is exactly that, which is we need one more thing. What you're saying is exactly right. What's your name? Sid. But what you said told us is you need one more thing. You also need, for the benefits of the first few years of education, to be relatively low. So, and that's an empirical question that goes back to the plausibility question that you were asking earlier, is it the case that the first few years of education are useless or are not very useful? Or is it the case that every year of education is a year of education? And there will be an S-shape based on education if the first few years of education are not that useful, and they won't be if, in fact, even the first few years of education are that useful. I'm not going to answer this question now, but we are going to answer it in due course, whether or not this is the case. You see that this is not something that we can just think of it in the abstract. We sort of have to find out. There could be reasons the other way. You could feel, for example, that the first year of education is amazingly useful because this is when you learn to read. And once you know how to read, who cares about all of these things that I'm trying to teach you? Because you can teach yourself everything you need to know. Or you could think that education is not useful unless you have a secondary degree because that's what opens the door to you for various formal jobs. You think that the first few years of education are really useful, so there would be a relationship between income today and income of my children, but it wouldn't have this shape, if that is the case. In fact, it might have a completely opposite shape, where it's more like an inverted L as opposed to an S. So education would be one.